Hello, welcome to another episode of the Kreft's Couch Pod with your host, Dr. Janine Kreft. All right, so I am embarking on a personal journey and I'm really excited to share this with you because if you have been having a rough start to 2025, this just might be for you. So I'm calling this my software upgrade program because I was getting sick and tired of my same old shit. Okay? Sick and tired of it. And I started to share a little bit about it online on social media, but I wanted to deep dive a little bit more on here so you get the idea of where I'm going, what I'm sharing, and I am taking you on a journey with me in real time. Like I literally just started, I'm on day 3. Literally just started a couple days ago. And so I'm sharing daily online my takeaways, what I'm learning, what's working, what's not working, etc. So I'm running through this personal experiment for myself so that you can hold me accountable and also hopefully learn and get some takeaways from it. Now, I have done subconscious reprogramming for a long time. And if you've been in my world, then you know it's been part of one of the first things I sold, taught, talked about, like over 6 years ago. And while I do have a fair understanding of rewiring the subconscious and have learned a lot of different tools with it, I realized I could no longer half-ass it. So I get that I went through a period of where when I first started learning it, that I was kind of doing deep little dives here and there, these kind of breakthrough experiences, hypnosis, la la la. But it was kind of diffuse, I would say. However, it was still a lot more than I had ever done before. I was also jumping into a lot of long meditations, etc. And so, very early on in my journey on social media, I mean, it definitely took me a couple of years to build on social media, but when I leapt to work for myself, I had a lot of success, you could say. So, for the years of like 2020 to 2022, I would say, especially, I had a lot of growth financially, visibly online with lots of views, etc. And I felt like I got this all together, like I had it in the bag. Things are good. Well, I thought it would just keep going that way, like run on its own. You know what I mean? It's like you work out for a couple of years and then you just let it go. Okay. So I didn't entirely let it go, let my mind go, but I did get lazy about it. So I no longer did the super long meditations. I kind of did meditations here and there. Um, and then I also started to, kind of re-engage. I was like, okay, well, maybe I just need to do it every morning. And I was doing that for a couple months. I was like, why are things not shifting? And I just felt myself plateau and then go down, 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 right? Whether it be financially, career-wise, la la la. That was not the vibe. And I just got to this point where I couldn't outwork my subconscious beliefs, is what I've gotten. And I've gotten really clear too that although you could say I had quantum leaps, if you will, in those early times, a couple things happen. It was almost similar to someone who wins a lottery and then a couple years later, like is back to their financial baseline, like loses it all. And that is because the self identity or self concept doesn't match with the new kind of results, so to speak. And so I get that that was part of it, where there was a lot of exposure and my nervous system struggled to handle some of the hate online and just things that come with that, and just holding all of that energy, circulating that energy. So there was that. And then, two, I was doing kind of more general meditations. Yes, I feel like I thought I was always focused on career and whatnot. But looking back, I'm like, I was not laser focused. And so it felt more diffuse. And so I get that likely I created a lot of that success, if you will, from doing so many long meditations. I was doing those like Dr. Joe Dispenza 2-hour meditations, kind of to get through COVID, but anyways, but also for that. And I really sense that that helped decrease resistance for me so much that it created my ability to attract much easier. So I think that kind of all had a lot to do with it. And there was just a lot of momentum and it just boom happened. I mean, this is my best sense of what it is now. Well, I've kind of evolved over time. And like I said, it wasn't as laser focused. And I just got clear a couple things all clicked together recently where I was like, okay, I can't keep doing what I'm doing and expect to create a different result. So I really have to take everything I have learned and implement it because and I'm sure if you've followed along the podcast, you know there's times where I've been frustrated about well, it's kind of like, how are people so sure that they can create something in their reality? I'm like, I believe it, maybe I don't believe it. And I was like, maybe I just haven't had the personal experience with it. Because on one hand, I did create some really amazing things. And then I was like, but why isn't this happening again? So I was kind of going into a lot of doubt about it. And I don't know what it is, but something just clicked recently and I felt like I was kind of at like an emotional rock bottom, if you will, which is where I was just like, "Ugh," sounding like almost my old self, my old kind of depressive thought pattern or anxious thought pattern, reminiscing about the past, why wasn't I having to get not laser focused. Now, what I'm implementing right now is nothing new. It's not something I haven't heard 1,000 times or even worked with certain coaches on, but something about it clicked and just it's different this time for whatever reason. And I offer that in that if you're frustrated with where you're at, keep going because sometimes you just need that breakdown or you just need something said a different way or you just need to listen to that thing again and things will click. They will click, I promise. And so I got the idea of okay, if our programming runs 95% of our lives, I mean, research shows this. This is like research on neuroplasticity. If it runs 95% of our lives, then why am I not working on that? Why am I spending 20 minutes in the morning on a meditation? That is not enough because there are 60, 70,000 thoughts a day that you have. And if it is not matching what you are trying to wire in those 20 minutes, then you're not going to move very fast. You're not going to move very fast, right? And although your focus only needs to be a little more than half, 51% focused on where you're going, you're also not going to get there very fast. And to me, I don't like those odds because that is too, I don't know, because sometimes I might be 49, I might be 51. You're going to get a mixed bag depending on where your focus is at, right? So this is a focus game. Now, I'm going to be talking mostly about subconscious reprogramming and focus and all that. Yes, nervous system regulation, all these other things are relevant and important, but that stuff I'm more aware of. And so I'm working for myself on the focus piece. So I was thinking, okay, what then can I set myself up for throughout the day to create laser focus? Focus from morning until evening, meaning I am regularly throughout the day looking at my vision again, reminding myself of the future identity, and feeling as if it's already happening, feeling as if it's happening right now. So I started to deep dive into just some reading and podcasts about the topic in order to kind of get myself settled. And I was like, okay, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, but all I know is I'm going to start committing to this and I'm going to show up online and I'm going to share it with you guys. So if you actually go to my Instagram or TikTok, the day two, I did outline exactly what I'm doing kind of step by step, so to speak. So it might look like a pretty intense schedule, but I want pretty great things. I have big desires, big creations, and to me, that likely requires commitment that the average schmo doesn't want to choose. It just is what it is? So I'm committing to it. So I'm thinking of this like a software upgrade because the old programming, used to work, it got you so far, but now at this point, with where you're desiring to go, you need new software. You need to upgrade. You need a new processing system, which means it's going to function different. You're going to focus different. And so, the big things that I'm working on, and I will in future episodes kind of break pieces down bit by bit to kind of give you some more clarity. But today I just really wanted to give you a kind of broad overview of what's happening. But I am going to be focused on what is the goal I want to create. What is the goal I want to create? So I had to like spend some time workshopping from that, like a future self goal, career, financially, and then kind of working backwards from that. So then I'm going to be that person now and start to create my life from there. So already that looks like I'm changing my one-on-one container, right? So I'm working back to, okay, if I had this style of business at this level, what would the offer be? Okay, that's what I'm creating. And the funny thing is it was an offer that I used to sell back in 2021, but for some reason I got in my head about it and was like, I can't sell that anymore. Like, it's all beliefs, all beliefs. So I'm working on that. Like I have my goal and then building backwards. So acting as if, being as if. And then I'm also working on installing the new identity, the new person I am that has it, right? So it's not enough to just be like, okay, well, that's my goal and I'll work towards it, right? I do a lot of work, but am I showing up energetically as that person? And I kind of thought I got this because a lot of times, I talk about ask questions and I'm always in the question and being that person. I mean, I talked about it, but in the past couple days of literally every couple hours rehearsing or anytime I have a down moment of my brain wants to go somewhere, I bring it back to seeing an image of my goal, seeing myself as being it. I feel different. I literally feel different. And things have changed so quickly in just a few days energetically that it's subtle, but it's palpable. And I think it'll be interesting too to watch online as I document it to see visibly see how my energy shifts because I already feel it. Like the amount of conviction, the confidence, the just standing in my knowing, standing in my power that is very different than the kind of like I don't know, like when you're in a funk of just trying to understand life, just trying to get by, whatever, right? And so it is quite different when you start to rehearse it because you feel it internally and you literally just you stand a little prouder. You maybe approach your workouts a little differently. So that's what I'm working on. And if you're wanting to do this alongside me, here are 4 steps for you to start to perhaps look at this for yourself or maybe even consider implementing it. So, first thing you got to do is build awareness, right? We always got to look at what is happening here. What beliefs do I have that are keeping me stuck or are misaligned with where I'm going, right? So, you'll know that a belief or a thought is misaligned with where you're going when it feels bad, right? It's like we can have an idea of where we want to go, and then the thoughts got to match it because if we have a desire and thoughts are misaligned, then that is where a poor mood comes from. So you want to get clear on just what is working, what is not working, right? Where are you leaking energy throughout the day? And I noticed that, especially throughout the holidays, I would say, and into the new year, I was starting to spend a lot of time scrolling on social. I just kind of let myself get really addicted to the TikTok and just everything that's going on. And I was thinking, wow, there are insane distractions, and I am leaking so much potent time that I could be using in a much more, I want to say, productive manner. Now, I am a little something about like productivity and all that. I am more about how am I feeling using this time? Does it feel good to be doing this? Yes or no? And if I have big dreams, then likely I got to be taking actions that feel good and feel aligned. And to me, this is not about overworking because I will overwork and then burn out. That's not the vibe. So, yes, there is something about showing up and working and putting in the effort, so to speak, but it's not like push and struggle, because when you have a really strong desire, that you don't need willpower for, then you're choosing it, right? It's kind of like if you've ever had something in your life where you said, I am doing this no matter what it takes. It's like that energy of urgency and conviction that changes everything. Next, too, you want to start looking at what are patterns, thought, beliefs that are not working or are just not true. They're not true. And you keep focusing on them. So, for instance, if you continue to look at this reality, right? What's happening currently, your current reality, the results you're getting, that is showing you your old thought process, right? Because 3D takes a second to catch up. It's showing you your old thought process. So you will know if you have limiting beliefs about money or whatever with what money is showing up for you. That's it. That's where I'm at. To me, it's kind of like we all have the ability to visualize and imagine and create our reality. So, for what purpose would we not do it? I mean, it's free. It is free. $0, $0 to imagine what you want versus what you don't. Now, I had heard Abraham Hicks say this some time ago. Think about what you want versus what you don't. And I was like, well, yeah, of course, that makes sense. But it's like I knew it, but I didn't know it, in the sense of I didn't have the like aha click personalized experience to explain it. And now I'm like, oh, but no, but like you really came and put thought to what you don't want. You really can't even rehearse old memories of what you don't want. You can't indulge in that, right? And so I sense that took me some time to work through, especially coming from a therapist background. And part of that is to talk about the story and talk about the memory and blah, blah, blah. And this is a very different approach, and for different reasons. Obviously, you're using it for depending on where you're at. But if you're not actively healing something, then the way you rewire a thought is by not giving it attention. That's it. It feels very invalidating. It feels like, oh, you're not being empathetic. But it's like, no, if you don't want that thought to grow, then you need to. And so part of how you might go about this is like whack-a-mole style, like a thought comes up and I'm like, yeah, I reject you. And you can be funny about it, but it's like you have to be serious about it. You can't start to indulge it, milk it. Mm-mm. You have to be stricter with yourself than that. Then three, you're going to be installing new patterns, new programs, right? So yes, you're whack-a-mole with some of these things that pop up. It's kind of like you're bulldozing yourself out of these old belief patterns. But I like to think of it this way because I've heard a lot of different things. We're like, affirmations don't work. And it's like, well, they do if you A, bulldoze, and B, you feel it, right? But it's kind of like, think of it like brainwashing. You are literally going to brainwash yourself into these new patterns. So when I think of brainwashing, I think of someone like being tied to a chair and seated in front of a screen all day. And that's like all they get to see and hear, just media constantly, right? And what do we usually do? Watching TV, scrolling TikTok. We are programming ourselves, whether we like it or not, with whatever we're consuming. And so I recognized with, although in the moment I might be like, oh yeah, that's funny, or I reject that idea or whatever, you it's amazing how much more things program you than you realize. And I started to feel really funky consuming too much content, especially haphazardly, right? Not intentionally. TikTok, it's like you never know what's going to come across your For You page, right? And then the algorithm is like, well, you like more of this, so let's show you more of it. And it's a whole thing. So, in order to install new programs, part of my process is I would say not fasting entirely from social media, but I am like severely reducing it to, oh, I see one or two, and I could already feel just the amount of distractions are amped up on there right now. So, it will grab your attention very quickly. So, I'm looking at posting, checking for comments, responding, and getting out for the most part. Because if I am having the time to scroll, then I have the time to read. And so instead, I'm looking at, especially during this intensive period, I am reading more content about what I'm wanting to install, the new beliefs that I'm wanting to install. So that's part of how I'm doing that process. And then, of course, rehearsing throughout the day my my vision of the future. Then, number four, once you've kind of gotten some clarity on what's not working, new things you want to install, then you're going to come up with a plan that's going to work for you. Now, like I said, I left it out on social media. It is pretty intensive because I'm training like an Olympian here, but you're going to want to come up with something that's doable. Now, if you have zero routines or practices, then you got to start somewhere, just somewhere. And that might look like the morning meditation right when you wake up. That's it, morning meditation. Or writing down things that you're grateful for until you feel it. It's not enough to just do these things to check off the boxes to say, see, I did my morning routine. No, you got to be in it to shift your frequency. You know, I've talked about frequency for a long time, and you have to shift it so that you feel different. And so practices that you might consider throughout the day, yes, morning meditation to help reduce resistance, maybe journaling either what you're grateful for or journaling as if your future accomplishments have already happened, right? And then you'll notice if little doubt starts to creep in or whatever. No, you got to use your imagination. Use your imagination here to really lean into and believe what is happening. And then throughout the day, that's the bulk of your time, you're going to want to be attentive to where the thought's coming from. What's happening? What are you thinking? If you have to set an alert on your phone to remind you, I would encourage you to do that. For me, so far it's pretty natural, I would say. I'm still considering saying the alert every 2 to 3 hours, but I'm so in this right now that I'm just, even every hour, I'm thinking for a couple minutes and I'm visualizing and whatever. Or I'm very conscious of my conversations right now and being privy to say, no, I reject that, even if it's just to myself. You know what I mean? So throughout the day, I'm continuing to do another meditation, more writing, because writing I feel really does ingrain it. And this is not your old school journaling. This is writing as if it's happened, writing what you're grateful for, right? All the things that you're trying to install. Remember, focusing on what you want versus what you don't. So I'm doing those things throughout the day. And then in the evening, I wasn't too consistent with an evening routine, and that's something I've re-implemented. So kind of similar to the morning, looking back on the day, seeing how the day went, doing another meditation, gratitude journaling again, basically whatever I'm kind of feeling called to. I'm still flushing out the deets, but that is how I'm implementing this thing. I've told folks that I'm not too sure how long I'm going to do this for. I mean, I'm committed to make these actions happen. So, I mean, I'm likely these are going to be just new habits that are going to be my new way of being. I can see that happening, but I was like 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months. I mean, whatever it takes, I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I'm on board and I am desiring to create a different reality. So I know that was a lot and a broad overview of where I'm at, but I will go into more detail and a deep dive on this on future episodes. See you soon.